All right, hello everyone. This is Ken DeLong, author of The Economic Comic, and today I want to talk to you about what's on everybody's mind. What's going to happen to the economy as a result of the global health crisis we're facing? So I'm recording this in May of 2020, and the economy is just starting to now, quote unquote, open up. And a lot of people are saying, well, is there going to be a V-shaped recovery? Is it going to be a lasting effect? So let's talk about a little bit about economics and what we can learn about this, okay? So in order to understand what the effects of the virus might be, we need to talk about how consumer preferences determine the structure of the economy. So let me give you an example that a lot of Austrian economists like to throw around, so I think I'll just repurpose it for my purposes as well. Imagine you're the owner of a big tobacco farm and you have hundreds of acres of tobacco, and you have harvesting equipment and planting equipment, and you have a drying facility to dry the tobacco leaves, and a little factory that rolls them up into cigarettes. And you live in a society where lots of people like to smoke. Okay, that's all really valuable stuff. You're probably doing a good job and making a lot of money. What's going to happen? Let's say one night there's a movie on TV that makes everybody, that talks about how horrible smoking is, and everybody quits smoking, right? The next day. It's a little bit unrealistic, but imagine what would happen to your company. All right, the whole thing would fall apart, right? Everything you own would be pretty much worthless, right? So what's going to happen? Obviously, you're not going to sell cigarettes anymore. What are you going to do with all that stuff? Well, it's all going to get redeployed to other purposes in the economy. So, for example, you might sell off the farmland to a farmer who grows food crops or, cotton or something like that, right? Your harvesting and planting equipment, maybe that could be repurposed by some other farmer, so you might sell those things. Your drying facilities and your factory floor, maybe most of that equipment isn't worth much to anyone. You might disassemble it and sell it as scrap or who knows what. Maybe eventually you could sell off the facilities to someone else who's making, t-shirts or artisanal cheese or something like that, right? Something that people actually want, since they don't want cigarettes anymore. And everybody who worked for you would have to go out and find new jobs somewhere else, doing something that people actually want, because they no longer want your cigarettes, right? So we call this, economists will talk about redeploying the resources towards other ends, right? All these different things that you had commandeered or owned or employed to make cigarettes, now nobody wants them, so all that stuff gets sold off and used for something else. The employees go somewhere else. So this is how the consumer preferences will determine the structure of the economy, right? The fact that people liked to smoke before means that all the land was used to farm tobacco, and the fact that people now don't want to smoke means it's no longer used to farm tobacco, right? So you may have heard people talk about voting with your wallet, right? If people are buying cigarettes, they're voting to keep the tobacco farm. If they stop buying cigarettes, they're not voting for and they're put that spending somewhere else to buy, kale or whatever. And then, so now they're voting for that. The great economist Ludwig von Mises called this consumer sovereignty. So, but they're both about the same thing. So if you don't like Walmart, don't shop there, right? Take your money and vote somewhere else. Go to Target or go to downtown stores or, small mom and pop shops. Now, a lot of people might say, well, but if I just stop shopping at Walmart, that's not going to make any difference, right? I'm just one shopper. And yeah, that's correct, because you only get one vote, right? If a lot of people agree with you and everybody stops shopping at Walmart, Walmart will pull back and it will become smaller, and they'll close some of their stores, and the new stores will be smaller, and it won't be such a force. But if the other shoppers keep going there, then you've basically been outvoted, right? It's the democracy of the marketplace. You might think that Walmart's a terrible thing, but apparently no one else agrees with you. So they win, you lose, right? But in any event, you can always shop somewhere else. No one's forcing you to shop at Walmart. So, okay, so how does all this relate to coronavirus? Well, right now there's a government lockdown of the economy, which has thrown everything into complete chaos. But even after the economy, quote unquote, opens up again, there are going to be some lasting changes in consumer preferences. And for example, people are going to want to go to restaurants less than before. They're going to want to go to movie theaters less than before, right? On the other hand, they're going to buy a lot more masks than they used to. They're going to buy a lot more hand sanitizer than they used to. They're going to use delivery services a lot more than they used to. And there's probably hundreds or thousands of these preference changes that are all happening across the economy. Now, and that will cause, of course, just like in the tobacco example, resources will be redeployed from the movie theater and the restaurant segment back into hand sanitizer or masks or something like that, right? And all this is normal. This is what the economist Joseph Schumpeter called the creative destruction in the economy, right? This is part of that process. The problem is that redeployment of these resources takes time. Like once your tobacco farm closes down, it's not like 2 weeks later it's sprouting cotton and all the factories have been sold off and all the workers have found new jobs. It takes time, right? And sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it can take years, decades before some of these resources have found new homes. The big problem with coronavirus is that even though consumer preferences are always changing, right? Like people are constantly, new products come out and they stop using old products, they start using new products. This time there was a massive shift in consumer sentiment across the entire country, all like within a few weeks, right? This is one of the most, I would say probably one of the most severe changes in consumer sentiment that certainly I've ever seen in my life. And one of the problems we're going to have is that as we're redeploying all these resources and figuring out what the new structure of the economy is going to look like, it's just going to take a long time. So I don't think there's going to be a V-shaped recovery. I think some of the jobs are going to come back right away, but some of them it's going to take some time for people to figure out, okay, I don't want restaurants and theaters anymore. What do I want? I want this, I want that. And so consumers will fall into new spending patterns. One of the problems, another problem we're going to run into is that this redeployment process is really painful because it involves people losing their job, it involves people going bankrupt, and politicians don't like that, so they're going to interfere. They're going to prop up failing companies, they're going to pay people who are not working, they're going to interfere in the financial markets, and they're doing this already right now, and that's just going to slow down this healing process that the economy has to go through. And in some sense, you think about that, it's really kind of unfair. So right now, let's say you don't want to go to restaurants as much as you used to. And so some restaurants are going to fail, but politicians say, well, no, I don't like those restaurants to fail. So if you're not going to go there and buy a meal, we're going to take the money from you through taxation, and we're going to give it to that restaurant anyway, and you don't even get a meal out of it, right? We're just going to force you to pay the restaurant, and you won't even get to eat there. So it really just kind of prolongs the pain, right? So these restaurants that people don't want to go to anymore are just going to like hang on. It's going to be super painful for the owners for some amount of time, and then finally they're going to give up. So I think the effects of the coronavirus are going to be long-lasting. When this economy, quote unquote, opens up, there will be a rebound in economic activity, but it won't come back to where it was because consumers don't want the same things that they wanted before. Right? And this whole readjustment process of what do consumers want now, and we're not even sure yet. People are still figuring it out. And it's all going to be made slower by the government sticking their fingers into every single readjustment process that happens. Every time someone loses a job or every time a business shuts down, they're going to want to come and save the day. When in fact, part of that may be very useful in getting over the super shock in the beginning because some businesses will come back. Some consumers' preferences won't change. And those businesses probably could use a bridging loan to get through. But for the ones that people just don't want anymore, like it's going to have to, we're going to have to take that pain sometime. So where all this ends up is really unclear. It has yet to be seen. We're going to find out over the next months and years just exactly what this virus has done to us. All right, I hope you enjoyed that little discussion, and we'll see you on the next video. Hey guys. If you want to understand more about economics, but you're just tired of the jargon and the technobabble of professional economists and media pundits, then check out my book, The Economic Comic, which is available on Amazon. There you can learn some of the concepts of economics through comics. Thanks for listening.